If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Weirding Way Media.
Night, Mr. Walters.
You see that guy over there? No, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Hello and welcome to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I am HP, and with me as always is Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
No fares? That's not too good, HP.
This week we are talking about Taxi episode 19. Alex tastes death and finds a nice restaurant. This was written by Michael Leeson and directed by James Burrows, of course. A reminder, we are doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming. So for this episode, we begin in the garage as Louis is giving out the cab assignments. And Bobby announces that he's going to go grab some breakfast.
Wait, I have to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
Yes, this early. This was written by Michael Leeson, right?
Yeah.
He wrote The War of the Roses.
Did he?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's the DeVito connection right there. Danny DeVito directed that film.
Yeah.
But he also wrote a classic, HP. The Walter Matthau, Robin Williams comedy classic, The Survivors.
When you said Walter Matthau, I was first thinking, oh, did he do Grumpy Old Men? Did he do Hopscotch? What did he do? No. And I really liked War of the Roses. I remember seeing that in the theater. It was a good movie. It was very dark. We're beginning in the garage. Louis is giving out the cab assignments, and Bobby announces to everybody that he's going to go grab some breakfast, and the rest of the cabbies start to follow him out.
First of all, you're jumping over a bunch of stuff here. The score, the opening score is really disco-y with lots of horns. We haven't heard that one before. That's unusual. And then this is apparently a really big night at Sunshine Cab Company. They've blown their entire background performer budget here in this first scene. It's packed, man. It's like Grand Central Station all of a sudden there.
I have some notes about some of the background extras. You're right. They really did go above and beyond in this episode, and we'll talk about that a little bit momentarily.
And you didn't bring up Tough Guy Tony. We got a Tough Guy Tony moment. He's sitting on the cab.
Is he sitting on the cab to start off this episode?
Baby. Yeah.
I don't even notice it anymore because I'm so used to this like macho posturing that is the stock and trade of the simpleton Tony Banta. This episode is actually a return to form, as we'll see from Tony and the rest of the cabbies.
You know, I failed to mention in the previous episode that he expanded his tough guy sitting around repertoire, because at one point Banta is sitting on a bench and he can't just sit on the bench. He's sort of like half lying on it with one foot on the floor and the other foot on the bench. Like, Jesus, man, we get it. You take up space and no one can tell you different.
Is it like he's playing his own version of The Floor is Lava and he's trying to touch something without touching it?
No, he's showing how perfectly casual he is. He's like the Pied Piper of Hamlet or something. He's just like, oh, hello, there you are.
On the way out, Nardo asks Louis to let Alex know when he gets back that they're at Mario's. But Louis just very casually mentions to Nardo that Alex won't be in for a while. And Nardo says, well, why? What's going on with Alex? And Louis just throws out, Alex got shot. And everybody freaks out. Like, what are you talking about? Alex got shot? What happened? Louis maintains a very nonchalant attitude. He says Alex was robbed and he was admitted to Mount Sinai Hospital. And the cabbies announce just to announce it, exposition, here we go, that they're going to head over there right now. But just as they're leaving, Alex pads in opposite side of the garage, and he has this ridiculous looking bandage over his left ear. Because what we find out is that he got nicked. The gun went off and the bullet nicked his ear. The mountain of gauze and bandages around his, just hanging by his ear, just looked ridiculous. I don't know what you thought, Father Malone. I thought it looked silly.
He looked like a character from The Dark Crystal, like just some sort of headgear that they had strapped on him. And if that is supposed to be a bandage, then he was not nicked. He's gushing, apparently. It's either blood or pus or something that they would need that much gauze packed onto his ear. And very, very soon after, in the upcoming scenes, he will have none of these bandages at all.
If this really did nick his ear, they would have just put a couple of stitches in his ear, and that would have been it. You would have had maybe a little like dressing over it, maybe a little Band-Aid or something. But no, he's got this mass of gauze and surgical tape around his ear.
It looks like it was Halloween and he decided he was going to be the mummy, but then immediately ran out of supplies in his closet, in his bathroom.
It's the mummy, the mummified ear. That's his costume. He says to the cabbies, he was getting robbed. The guy shot him. The bullet nicked his ear, and it's just a scratch, but his hearing is affected. We were talking in the last episode.
Did we say vaudeville? Is that the word you were going to use for this segment?
No, I was going to use hacky. Just hacky. Like there's all these hard of hearing jokes. Like they'll say something and he'll reply confusedly about something that sounds like. Actually, my favorite one, I have to say, this one kind of made me laugh a little bit. Bobby says to Alex, boy, you read about these things, you never think it's going to happen to you. And Alex replies, what makes you think it's a Jew?
It works because of how the expression, which is this sort of like inquisitive, like, are you serious? Are you actually blaming a Jew for this? And he holds it forever. It's just on and on while everyone's like, oh my God. Everyone there knows they're in a vaudeville routine except for Rieger.
This is actually also a really good showcase for Wheeler in this. I think he has some great line readings and he's really funny, as we'll see.
To the whole, like, he's hearing one thing, he's answering one question because it sounds remotely like another thing. I hate all of that, but they did manage to enliven it and update it and make it good and funny and relevant, where 3 people say things to him. And then when they realize that he understood none of them, each of the characters slides to his good ear and says the line again. And even the most inconsequential Bobby just said, yeah, at the end of his thing. So I thought that bit worked really, really well.
I think part of what got me excited about it is it feels like the first time in a long time that the cabbies as a group are interacting with each other. It may be just this silly vaudevillian conceit about losing his hearing and then misunderstanding, but it was funny that they're playing off of each other, and it gave me a warm feeling to see the cabbies all in one place bouncing off of each other a little bit.
I wonder if that's going to equal an extra yellow light at the end of this episode. Anyway.
Maybe, and I'm going to get ahead of ourselves here. Bobby asks if he got a good look at the guy, and Alex says all he remembers is his big gun, and his hand was tattooed with "kill" on the knuckles. And I thought this was pretty funny. Louis declares that no one with tattoos should ever be picked up. They're all morons, maniacs, and lowlifes. And Banta says, well, I got a tattoo. And then Louis responds, oh, yeah, and losers.
What I like is that Tony says it rather challengingly. Like, yeah, I got a tattoo. What do you want to say about it? And then, well, you're a loser. That Let me amend what I initially said. There are also losers who have tattoos.
We've talked at length during the course of this podcast about Tony and the possibility of an explosion of violence, right?
Yeah.
So there's always something really satisfying when Louis can get a good dig in at Tony's expense. Usually it's about what a crappy fighter he is, or what an idiot he is, or all of these things. So I'm having a little fun at Tony's expense. But that is a part of the show, like a trope in this show that I really do find especially funny, is that when Louis, of all people, Tony could just step on him like a roach, but he doesn't care. He loves giving it to Tony.
Louis is the only character I think who can get away with it and mean it because he is his employer.
So at this point, we cut to nighttime B-roll from Alex's POV driving the cab at night. There's something, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's something in the way that the B-roll point of view is shot. It feels on edge and anxious. I don't know if it was intentional. It puts you into the headspace of Alex as he's driving his cab after this super traumatic event. Feels like he's very, very nervous and very edgy about the whole thing. I thought that was cool.
It feels like the B-roll is sped up just slightly, and the score that they've chosen to use here is from Bob James, is this like clarinet, sort of like like that. So yes, of course, it's very nerve-wracking.
Kudos to them, because they don't hit you over the head with it, but clearly the message got across to us.
Can we double back for a second? Because you said you want to bring up the background players here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to bring up some background players, because over by the coffee machine, there's some sort of communist meeting going on in the last scene. There's this, am I jumping ahead? Is this who you were going to talk about?
The coffee machine? Say that again?
There's some sort of communist meeting going on over by the coffee machine during the previous scene. There's this dude with a brown suede blazer and a black t-shirt over bell-bottom jeans, right? And he's wearing one of those mini captain hats, like half the background characters in Jaws were wearing, like the Captain and Tennille cap. But his is like this deep chocolate. And he's got a thermos and a folded newspaper, which is clearly a signifier that he's a Marxist. So there's something going on in the corner. And then next to him is this guy in olive drab army pants and this oversized olive drab sweater and a cream and black striped shirt and a beret. He looks like he's standing on a Parisian street. I don't know what's going on in the corner of Sunshine Cab, but clearly they should be worried.
There is a scene coming up in the garage that I did actually make note of one extra in particular. I think you're jumping the gun a little bit. I think we're getting to that.
You're talking about the wrench guy, right?
After
there was lots of background performers here.
I'll bring it up when we get to that point, but you really painted a picture of those background extras that can't help but make people like me want to go back and watch the episode again.
I'll say the name again, Ralph T. Schlane, baby.
We're in Alex's cab at night, and as we've described, he's very on edge about driving his cab after what happened to him. Louis checks in with him on the radio and says, "Don't worry, don't pick up anybody who doesn't look right." And Alex thanks him. He's actually kind of surprised. "Oh, thanks, Louis. I'll do my best." And then Louis cuts in. You hear Louis over the radio say, "Okay, Nardo, I read your crummy speech. Where's my $5?
Once again, this is a CB radio situation, which means that Louis had to keep that button depressed in order to say that line.
When I was a kid, we might have talked about this, but my dad was big into CB radios. And we had a base unit at our house in addition to the ones in the car. And you're right. It looked like an old-timey Edward R. Murrow microphone, but it had this bar, and you had to squeeze the side of the bar to open the channel, and then you let go, and it would close the channel. But you had to hold on to it. I remember that.
In the movie Die Hard, there's at some point someone's like speaking into a radio, and then somebody cuts in over them, and I'm like, that's not how that works. Like, what are you doing? Not quite the same thing here, but yes, I do think of these things when radios are involved. Like, as funny as the line is, or the notion that he's only doing it because he's getting paid, it's still like kind of clumsy.
We saw it when in the episode where Nardo was driving Tom Selleck to the art gallery auction, And then you find out that Louis has heard everything that's going on, which doesn't make sense because she didn't have the radio in her hand the whole time. But
Yeah, like what she like rubber banded it and then like left it so they could listen in. Like that's
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Alex's cab is hailed and starts to pull over and then pulls back and says, "All right, next one." And then someone else hails his cab and he pulls away from that guy too. Finally, he's hailed one more time.
Bravo to the poor man's process guys here with the headlights swerving in and out behind him as if he's actually pulling in and out. They're doing some crazy good work back there. I'm sorry.
He's hailed one more time and a man in a priest's habit gets in. Now, side note, the priest is played by another classic, that guy. His name is James Staley.
Yeah.
And he's appeared in, I couldn't find anything specific that was like the role that you would know him from, but
I had one that came to mind immediately.
You did? What was it?
He's the prissy motel clerk at the Grand Canyon in National Lampoon's Vacation. Sir, the check will have to clear in 3 business days. That guy.
Rather humorously, Alex he's already uptight about picking this guy up, and now he's suspicious of this fare, even though he's in
HP. Yeah. Nuns wear habits. Priests have cassocks.
Oh, sorry. Alex starts peppering him with questions. I think he asks him to name all of the apostles.
It's a bet going on back at the garage. Can you settle this bet for? He's like, really? This is your bet? Like the priest reactions are great to all of because they're totally natural. Like what are you even talking about, man? Like
he's having trouble coming up with every last apostle. Alex is like, oh, you missed a couple.
Well, it isn't Sneezy.
When the priest finally admits he can't quite get all of them, like to your point, he makes a joke about Sneezy. Alex can't take anymore. He immediately pulls over and really physically gets the guy out of his cab. He's brandishing a baseball bat that comes out of nowhere and kicks this poor priest out of the cab. Now we cut back to the garage. Here's where things got a little weird for me. This was a directorial thing. We've talked about this in the past where James Burrows likes to do things cinematically. We cut to the garage, but we're not on the main floor of the garage. We start on that second level where the boss's office is. Wheeler is like bopping his way down the stairs. Like
he's been squatting up there for who knows how long.
That is a callback to the last episode. The camera follows Wheeler as he's doing his cool guy strut down the stairs. We've talked about this podium, this mechanics podium that Latka sometimes will stand at when he's working on a piece of equipment. There's this older guy at the mobile mechanics podium. He grabs what appears to be a ratchet. And I think there's even like a little bit of Foley work, like a click, 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 so that you're made to understand that he's stealing a ratchet from the toolbox. And he furtively puts it into his inside jacket pocket and he slinks away. But this is our first introduction back into the garage. I wrote this down. Am I imagining this? This is so weird. But you come to find out there's a reason for it.
I was so confused and yet 100% intrigued by what was going on here. Is it lawlessness now? Like that since Rieger got shot, people are just stealing shit like rampantly. Like I thought this was a tale of a thief. When it came down, when Wheeler came down the stairs, because they focus very heavily on that extra take. In fact, when the extra stole the wrench and walked off screen, my first thought was like, oh my God, that's great. I can't wait to talk about that. What's going on here?
That was precisely my reaction. I wrote this down and I was so gleeful because I didn't remember seeing this on the last 100 times I've seen the episode. So I was like, this is great. Father Malone's going to love this part.
By the way, Wheeler struts everywhere, but you're right. He is strutting down these stairs. Do you think if you got very close to him under his breath, you would hear him saying, we go together like Rama Lama Lama, Kadingity Dingadong?
The Grease callback? Probably. I mean, he's a stylish guy. He's hip, you know? He's a handsome dude. So if I looked like that and I dressed like that, I'd probably strut everywhere I went too.
Oh, by the way, his hair is out of hand in this scene, man. It's a mane. He's like a fucking anime character. It's like it's got his own weather patterns. It's crazy big.
He is just letting it fly. He really is so free with it. He's shaking his head, so it goes all over the place. But I just thought it was odd that our avenue to this strange wrench thief is following Wheeler come down these stairs. For what purpose? I have no idea. You use the word intrigued, and that's exactly what I was feeling. I want to, I kind of wanted the camera to follow this wrench thief now. Like, what's he up to?
Me too. I wanted him to get in a cab and then he goes out into the streets and like we follow him in his adventure. Why he needed that socket.
It was just so out of nowhere. But then Bobby walks over to Tony, and Bobby, this is exposition now, pretty clumsy. Bobby says to Tony that everyone's paranoid about for what happened to Alex. Everyone is scared. He says people have even stolen Laka's tools for weapons, which explained our wrench thief, which kind of deflated my whole excitement around this.
Me too. All right. It's just, they're using them as weapon. Who cares?
I kind of like the mystery of why this guy is taking this thing. But then Burns insists for some reason that the greatest weapon is communication, that the tongue is in fact mightier than the sword, which is precisely something that a silver-tongued demon would say.
Yeah.
So I guess that's in character.
Yes, don't put your weapons down. You don't need them. Get out there on the streets. Go to the bad neighborhoods. I command you. I didn't. What? I'm sorry. Do y'all want to go see a movie?
Bobby then says that he heard of someone who faked a heart attack to escape a mugging, and they were successful. And Burns is skeptical that Bobby could actually pull this off. And
Burns is skeptical because we need to see another Wheeler performance here.
Bobby goes through with it, and he collapses in a heap in front of the cage. And Louis angrily looks down at him and says, "What's the matter with you?" And Bobby gasps, "I'm having a heart attack." To which Louis then grumpily replies, "We'll have it somewhere else. I could have tripped and broke my neck."
Vaudeville.
It's still funny. I thought it was good.
You know what I wrote in my notes for the whole sequence? Yeesh.
I was along for the ride. It was fine. Alex returns to the garage and hands in his booking envelope. And Louis is incredulous that Alex booked absolutely nothing, zero, which might be a first for Alex for all we know. He's been a cab driver for forever, and he's booked nothing in the previous evening.
That's not too good, Alex.
Right. And then Alex's reply to that is simply, "I quit," which then prompts Louis to reply, "You're not used to criticism, are you?" Louis pulls Alex into his cage and tries to reason with him not to quit, but Alex is steadfast. Finally, just grabs Louis's mic and announces to the entire garage that he's quit over the loudspeaker.
And don't we all want to quit that way?
Oh, it's great. If it wasn't so sad that the threat of dying prompted this, it was pretty funny. So the other cabbies rush over, and at this point, Alex finally admits to everybody that he's terrified. Now, here's where my side note comes in. I wonder if this is where your sort of Marxist party is going on. What I wrote down is, as Louis comes out, he tries reverse psychology with Rieger. He basically calls Rieger a coward in an effort for Rieger to then go, "Well, I'm not a coward. I'll work." Anyway, there's an older cabbie extra in the background wearing what looks like a policeman's cover on his head.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, he just seems so tickled by the proceedings. He is watching Louis and Alex interact, and he is straight up laughing at their antics. Did you notice this? Was this the guy you were talking about?
No, that's not the guy I'm talking about. I think chronologically I am correct. That Communist Party appeared in the previous scene before Rieger goes back out, or like Rieger goes home. And then in this scene, it's another cavalcade of extras because they're all stealing shit from Latka, including that guy back there. But yes, he, like Lumberjack Appleman before him, he's really invested in the scene going on in front of him.
But it almost felt to me, he was just not even acting. He was just laughing at Judd Hirsch and Danny DeVito doing what they do. He looked to me like an audience member would react,
Well, that's the best kind of acting, they say, HP, when you're not acting at all.
It's, I guess so. This guy was supremely memorable for my part. None of this reasoning with Alex works. He goes to his locker to get his stuff. Now, here's another side note I made, and we talked about this in the very first episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Alex says something to the effect of, "Dying isn't worth such and such a mile." Do you remember what he said? They get paid per mile in the cab?
Did he say it's like 70 cents, right? 72 cents?
No, he says 55 cents per mile.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the going rate at this point in New York circa 1979. It's 55 cents per mile. So what I did was I went and checked out nyc.gov to see what the standard metered fare these days is. Do you know what the standard fare is these days if you're going to take a cab? Now everyone does Uber or
Right.
Lyft. But if you're going to take a cab, do you know what the posted regulations per mile are now?
I can't imagine. Is it like a couple of dollars? Is it $5? No, it couldn't be $5 a mile.
You're not far off. There's a ton of surcharges. There's surcharges everywhere. It's like reading stereo instructions. You can't make sense of it. But if you dig into it, the standard metered fare for a New York City cab in 2023 is 70 cents per 1/5 of a mile, which comes out to $3.50 per mile. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but I guess in New York, you're not really going all that far, are you?
You're not, but that still seems like if you're comparing that, and that might be your next question. Well, what is that in 1979 dollars? So
please tell me, yeah.
If you adjust for inflation over the years, 55 cents in 1980 would be worth $2.12 in 2023. So that's still a huge markup. If we were factoring in only inflation over the past, 43 years, it should be $2.12 per mile. It's a whole $1.50 above that, not to mention all the surcharges. No wonder no one takes cabs anymore because it's too fucking expensive. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
They rebooted Taxi today. It'd be a whole different, sadder situation, right? It'd be just, instead of everyone trying to get out of the cab company, they're all just trying to keep the cab company going.
It's true. There's a lot of money there. So Alex and the cabbies make their awkward goodbyes. I think they even go into the thing, we'll see each other again. Don't worry about it. I'll see you guys more than I saw you when I was working here. Don't worry about it. Knowing full well that, they probably won't see each other.
Banta gives him a tough guy hug. Did you notice? Just a little bit of a shoulder. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not gay.
What I wrote was I wrote Tony makes the most awkward goodbye, kind of leaning into Alex, but not really hugging him like the rest of the cabbies do. Yeah, because he kind of it's what a child does, really. It's not a tough guy hug. It's a child's hug. That's what Banta's doing. And it's perfectly in character for him because he's a simpleton. We know this. Man. Louis even gets in on the action. He awkwardly comes in and gives Alex a hug and then grumpily admits that he's going to hate himself in the morning for doing that.
Before we go, we're talking about costumes here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got a gander at Burns in this episode here in the garage. He's wearing his jacket, his big winter jacket that he's always wearing, right?
The brown one, right?
Yeah. But underneath that, he's got a turtleneck, like the sky blue turtleneck. And then beneath that, he has jeans, also sky blue. Now, they're broken up with the jacket, but it just made me think if you were to remove that jacket, Burns would look just perfectly at ease, leaping on the rooftops of Manhattan, like Frank Gorshin's Riddler character. You could picture it there, right?
I could totally picture that. The Frank Gorshin comparison is really spot on. So that's the end of the scene. I think we fade to black.
Sure is.
We cut to the exterior, more wonderful B-roll. We cut to the exterior of a restaurant, which we will soon see looks nothing like the interior. So we're led to believe that this exterior...
Hold on. No. They matched that window pretty well, I thought.
No. Like the view from outside makes it look like just a modest bistro.
Right.
But then they cut inside and there's drapes, like velvet drapes all over the place and a chandelier and tables that are...
Yeah, no. But the window itself matches the exterior.
You mean like the placement of the window?
No, the design of the window. Like the window
Oh.
is this like arched kind of pattern that you see from the outside, and then when they cut to inside, they matched that B-roll. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. But I do understand what you're saying. The storefront that we're seeing seems like it could be just like a tiny bodega within, and instead it's this opulent French restaurant. It is jarring.
The shape of the window itself, the dimensions of it do match. And that was kind of cool. But when you look through the window and you see what the tables are set up, and it just looks like a much more modest, because what we're going to discover is this is a fancy French restaurant. This is where Alex has gone to work after quitting the cab company. We cut inside it. I'm not going to say this is one of the best set dressed environments that we've seen. I mean, it's functional. It makes us believe that, yeah, this is a fancy schmancy restaurant. There's a lot of velvet and it looks a little gaudy, but at the same time, it's too small. And there's just something about it to me that read more fake than like a real restaurant. I mean, they recreated a high school reunion, a hotel, a function room. They could have done better with this, I think. I don't maybe you had a different reaction.
No, I totally agree with you. Like I was actually given the track record of the show for taking whatever the third act space we're going to end up in, and like giving us an entire boxing arena and giving us a what was it, like a meeting hall for the Sugar Mama episode. Even that, which was supposed to be a modest interior, was somehow more impressive than what should be massively impressive. The level of wealth that we're led to believe that you need to dine here as a requisite seems like the furnishing should be a little more rich.
It just straight up looked more like a set to me, and that was slightly disappointing. Bobby's basement apartment should be in the set decoration hall of fame, if there was such a thing. If there was, you should be able to walk through Bobby's apartment and like gawk at the detail. This was just okay. We see Alex is dressed in a nice tuxedo and he's waiting on tables. While he's dealing with a particular table, the cabbies, that's in this case, it's Bobby, it's Tony, it's Burns, and it's Nardo. They all arrive at the maitre d's area. They file in. They're all dressed to the nines. All the men have suits, and I don't remember exactly what Nardo's wearing, but I do remember she has her hair in kind of an updo.
Yeah, and a nice dress she's wearing. Everyone looks great. Wheeler in particular, I mentioned the anime here. It's blown out even more here somehow. It's I don't know. It's a marvel.
So they come in. Bobby says to the maitre d', reservations for Dr. Wheeler. He's self-conscious about the reservation, so he says he's a doctor. I found it humorous.
It's a natural way to make sure you're going to get a table, and they needed to get a table right away to go bother Rieger.
The cabbies get seated at their table, and there's a lot of fish out of water type comedy between Tony and Bobby. Tony is coming at it again. I hate to keep saying this, but he's coming at it like a child would. And Bobby is the exasperated kind of like, well, you're embarrassing me. Like, yeah, come on, get it together. Because Tony is coming at it from a place of pure naivete because he's never been in a place like this before. But at least Bobby, if he hasn't eaten at a place like this, he's an actor, so he knows how to act in a fancy restaurant.
They should have sat Tony with Burns. They could have continued their apple conversation here. Like, what's this fork for? There are too many forks. Do we have to use all of these forks?
Burns does announce his surprise at how much silverware they give them here. That I actually thought was genuinely a funny line, the way he delivers it. And it may be his finest comedic moment through the whole series. And I'm not exaggerating. I actually legitimately thought it was funny the way it just came up. I don't know.
I agree. We've picked on Burns and we've picked on Carver repeatedly, but ultimately that guy was talented and he could be funny. It's just that we don't like his character at all. Plus he's surrounded by giants.
The waiter comes over and Elaine starts to explain in very clipped, posh speak that they'd like Alex to wait on their table. And it was at that moment I remember saying to myself, and I started to write down, what's with this weird accent that Nardo put on to talk to this waiter? And then her literal next line is she wonders aloud, like, why am I talking like the Queen of England? And I thought it was fabulous. It was like,
great.
that it's like the writers anticipating my consternation at this development, and it's like they commented on it. Tony, ever the simpleton, declares the place is so fancy there ain't even gum stuck under the table, which is really driving Wheeler even more crazy.
Well, that would drive me crazy too. Why is he even doing that? Why is he looking under there?
Alex comes over and very graciously offers to get them a bottle of wine. And when he goes off to get the wine, it's somewhat, before we get to that, it's somewhat awkward, as you would expect it to be, because Alex is serving I don't know why they thought that it was a good idea to actually have him wait on them, because it can only ever be awkward. I mean, he's in a position of having to serve them, and they all admit to themselves, yeah, this is really kind of awkward, but whatever.
Plus, none of them can afford to eat there. It should be noted.
I was hoping that one of them would say, oh, a beef consomme for $9.99. That's outrageous, because I wanted to play the inflation game again, because probably whatever they were going to announce as the cost of the food was probably less than what we would pay now to go to TGI Fridays or something. But they didn't do it, though. They didn't, because they kind of look at the menu and they're like, oh man, he must be making great tips. Even on a cup of coffee, it'd be a great tip. But they don't say how much.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fact that everyone is like, well, I'm going to have a salad. Can I split that salad with you? Like, I'll have the potatoes.
It felt a little more, especially with Burns, like his dinner choice was less about how cheap it was and more about what an idiot he is.
I think it was a double whammy. I think the side of potatoes au gratin was the cheapest thing on the menu, and he's also an idiot because he doesn't know what potatoes au gratin is.
Alex comes back to the table and serves them the wine. While he's serving the wine, one of Alex's other tables, this sort of snooty-looking rich couple is trying to get his attention because he's talking with the cabbies while he's opening the wine, and they're having a conversation. Bobby kind of angrily replies to this woman, will you keep your drawers on, lady? He's got 6 other tables to serve. Jeff Conaway was really on fire through this whole scene. Like he had me genuinely laughing at some of his comments and the way he was playing this. The woman replies to him that all she wants is a glass of water. And I don't know why I found this so funny, but he, in a huff, like Bobby gets up, takes his water glass from the table and kind of slaps it down on the woman's table in front of her and says, there, you happy?
Because we all want to do that, and we want to see it happen. Plus, he's doing it in service of his friend who's being pestered by these fucking idiots. And, if you saw one of your friends being pestered like that and they couldn't say anything back, then take the initiative for them.
Here's a guy who, when he walked in, announced that he was Dr. Wheeler, but now he's abandoning all pretense of trying to act posh and upper crust, and he's just like slapping the water down on the table. I just thought it was really a fun character bit. So Alex comes back to the table, and the cabbies make a toast to Alex, and then they go to order. This is what you were talking about, and they're ordering. It's all very uncouth, right? Burns, he looks at the menu and he's like trying to be like this fine diner, like, oh, this is very interesting. So tell me, how are the potatoes au gratin prepared? Alex just says, with cheese. And Burns goes, oh, very interesting. I'll have the potatoes au gratin with cheese. Then that prompts Tony the simpleton to order the potatoes au gratin without cheese.
I wanted to see that arrive, by the way. I wanted to see that come to the table. Just a plate of potatoes.
Elaine and Bobby are going to split a salad. I think there is some aspect of, while this menu is super expensive, we can't even afford it. The odd thing is the maitre d' walks by. He sort of has this funny look on his face, like he's trying to catch Alex doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would get that impression. But so Alex then goes, okay, let me get this order correct. Vichyssoise, tarte à l'orange. And he goes to this beautiful sounding French meal. And that is enough to satisfy the maitre d'. And the maitre d' just goes back on his way. Alex insists, no, it's no big deal. The meal's going to be on him. Don't worry about it. And then Elaine admits that they came down to the restaurant hoping to talk Alex into coming back to work at the cab company. But she basically admits, well, it seems like there's really no chance of that happening at this point. This prompts Alex to say to her that, I was actually lying awake last night thinking about whether I should go back to driving a cab. He stands there and goes over the pros and cons of being a waiter versus being a cab driver. Every pro and con elicits this sort of quick burst of conversation amongst the cabbies. This was another Bobby Wheeler moment that I liked. At one of Alex's pros about being a cabbie is he doesn't have to worry about what he wears or shaving. And in the mix, like they're all like, oh, no, but in the mix, you can hear Bobby say very clearly, yeah, you hate shaving, which it's just like his way of kind of pumping up this sort of pro, in his favor. It just struck me funny. But in the end, Alex says that both jobs have their advantages and their disadvantages, but Bobby reminds him that he's forgetting one important thing, and that thing is what, Father Malone?
Friendship?
It's the perfect blendship. He says friends.
I think that would make me say no. I'm going to stay here, earn some cash with no gun stuck in my face, and eat delicious meals just as an employee for free.
He does come up with a pretty good list of why he should stay at the restaurant. He's getting great meals. He's getting great tips. I think he said he's making almost twice what he's making driving a cab, which I don't know. Did we ever try to figure out what we figure he's pulling down per week as a cabbie?
No, we've not yet ascertained the salary of a cabbie. That'd probably be easy to find, actually.
How much beyond their bookings do they get to take home a portion of that, or is it all tips?
No, it has to be a percentage of the bookings, right? Like they get 10-20% of whatever the haul was that day, and then they keep their tips.
Probably, but it can't be a tremendous amount. But although it has to be said, it's enough clearly to keep Alex in a pretty nice apartment in New York. He's not wanting for anything. He gets to go on these cool ski trips once in a while. So it sounds like he's making a pretty good living, I guess, is my point, as a cab driver. But even beyond that, he's making a great living as a waiter at this fancy restaurant. Elaine just finally says, well, I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess you're going to stay. Alex surprisingly declares in the end that he's a cab driver. He wants to come back. The freedom to make his own hours and be his own boss, because you get the sense that he's chafing a little bit under the watchful gaze of this maitre d'. So that might have been the thing that tipped the scales for him.
It's totally what tipped the scales for him. And let me just say that maitre d', the actor who played him, is a guy named Byron Webster, who has 72 credits, at least 5 of which are maitre d'.
I looked him up. The thing that I might have known him best from was he played a priest in an episode of the Brady Bunch. Do you recall the episode where there was somehow the family got the notion that Sam and Alice were going to elope?
Oh yeah, this is early, right?
I think it's not super early.
Not groovy Brady Bunch. They're still kids Brady Bunch.
No, because Greg has the perm.
Oh.
They're not little kids anymore. There's a scene where the kids have to go to Sam's to pick up their meat order, and there happens to be a priest in the butcher shop picking up his order. And there's something about their interaction, Sam and the priest, that kind of like, makes them believe, they must be talking about Sam and Alice getting married. That guy played the priest in that episode. Jubilantly, all pretense has lost the cabbies, and they're so happy that Alex has made the decision to be a cab driver instead of a waiter that they actually jump up, they shout. Tony puts Alex on his shoulders as if he's in the movie Rudy.
He just won the big touchdown. He scored the big goal. He did the big sports thing. That's how Tony thinks. He won the sports game here by coming back to the garage. Get on my shoulders. Get the Gatorade. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, the Perrier.
And it prompts the maitre d' disapprovingly comes over and sees this happening and
cancel that order, he should have said.
The bumper for this episode, which I actually kind of liked, but it ended up raising more questions than it answered. We cut back to B-roll of a cab in the middle of the night, driving in the night. Did you see what cab they are following.
Cab 804.
It's Cab 804.
In fact, we've seen this footage before in the Memories of Cab 804 segment.
The whole ending of the Cab 804 retrospective episodes was that Cab 804, we're led to believe, is no more.
Right. That's true. This is Ghost Cab 804, I guess.
It was like, it just can't keep a good cab down. So it's Cab 804, and it's Alex driving the cab at night. And once again, Louis comes on and cautions Alex not to pick up anyone that looks suspicious. And Alex maintains he's come to the realization that it's a dangerous business, but he's going to drive the way he always has. He's going to pick somebody up, and he looks with suspicion, and then I think he says, I'm off duty. And he starts to drive away, but then gets a hold of himself and says, oh, what am I doing? And he ends up pulling over back to where the fare that he just drove away from. And the fare gets into the cab, and ha, 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 it's a Girl Scout getting into the cab. But let me ask you this, Father Malone. It's the middle of the night. We know these are the nighttime cabbies. What the hell is a Girl Scout doing on the streets of New York at that hour?
Well, it's like Will Smith and Men in Black pointed out during his test. Obviously, that girl is up to some really bad shit. So Rieger's actually picking up the most dangerous fare he possibly could, because who knows what she's got in those cookie boxes.
His instinct was correct. His original instinct was, I'm driving away. This is crazy. What's a Girl Scout doing in the middle of the night, in the middle of New York? In the spirit of getting past his fear, he picked the most dangerous fare, and who knows what happened.
I'd like to point out that the little girl, for fans of the movie Heathers, the Courtney, the character Courtney, Country Club Courtney, I believe is her full official title. That's the same girl.
Did you recognize her? Or did it just happen?
Instantly. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she's all close up in Heathers.
As is our custom, we're going to start talking about yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Reminder, we are scoring on 1 to 5 yellow lights. There's no half lights involved, no broken lights, no cracked lights. 1 is the worst episode of Taxi you could imagine, and 5 yellow lights this is a masterpiece of what Taxi has to offer. The best episode ever. Father Malone, what do you give Alex tastes death and eats at a nice restaurant, whatever it's called?
Based on your criteria for judging the previous episode, am going to go with 3 yellow lights for this. It is a 2 yellow light episode, but I agree with you that sometimes the camaraderie on screen of these characters that we love is somehow so joyous and familiar that it makes the episode better. It takes a slight episode and elevates it. This is a slight episode, but everyone's interactions are pretty sparkling.
I agree, but don't base your score on what I'm judging. This is your scale as well as it is mine. Don't judge it solely on what you think I would pull out of the episode.
No, I don't care what you would pull out of the episode. I just happen to agree with your assessment that sometimes there's an alchemical reaction when these characters get together, and that made me reassess it. So
sure, and as it turns out, I agree 100%. I also gave it 3 yellow lights. In a lot of ways, Taxi can be greater than the sum of its parts. There is some kind of a chemical reaction that takes place when you get all of these characters and all of these great actors into a room together and let them react to each other and to what's happening. And this is a great example of that. There's some funny stuff in the episode beyond that, and it's perfectly pleasant. But for me, the scene inside of the restaurant where the cabbies are playing off of each other, and even some of the stuff in the garage when after Alex gets back from being shot, and some of the stuff, the bantering that goes back and forth, it really does sparkle. I love that you use that word. And this is what Taxi should be all about. The scenes with all the cabbies work so well together, and they're so funny. And this is what I watched Taxi for. So for me, it's an enjoyable, funny episode all around. Not the greatest episode, but a solid above average episode for which I give it 3 yellow lights. So 3 from me, 3 from you. So that will do it for this particular episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Father Malone, when you are not clocked into the garage, where can the fine folks find you on the internet?
You can check me out at fathermalone.com, or you can hear me at Weirding Way Media, where I have shows like Dark Destinations. It's a half-hour radio drama I write and produce. Or you could hear me on Midnight Viewing, the horror anthology podcast show I do with Chris Stashew from CultureCast and the Projection Booth's Mike White, where we discuss horror anthology television series.
Like Father Malone, you can find me on the Weirding Way Network, in addition to Noise Junkies, which is a music podcast that I do with Father Malone and Mondo Heather's Heather Drain. You can also hear me on occasional guest spots on the CultureCast. And as for Dark Destinations, which Father Malone has mentioned, you can also hear me occasionally doing silly little acting things, but mostly doing some of the music.
All of the music.
And it's a wonderful, if you love good audio drama, good storytelling, you cannot go wrong. Check out Dark Destinations. And I also have a Bandcamp site called hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. Not a lot there now, but hoping to get more stuff up there as time permits. So once again, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free, if you like what you hear, to subscribe to this podcast, write a review, rate us. We would love to hear from you. So for Night Mr. Walters, for myself, and for Father Malone, thank you again for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
Night, Mr. Walters.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.